All right, you'll remember last check at my property, I took down a bunch of trees because they were getting a little dangerous and unpredictable. Next up, I got to replace the trees, and I want to put new trees in there. But also, while I'm doing this, I wasn't going to do what most people do, which is just grind the stumps down just so it's below grade and throw a little grass over it. I was going to put new trees there. So I wanted to get rid of the old root system. Obviously, that's a little bit more expensive. And since I was doing that, I decided to upgrade the entire front of the property because this is my front yard. I usually have my ice rink up there. My kids generally play in the front yard. And I don't want to ever be in a situation where somebody may either try to like run over a tree with a car to get it off the property, or a car loses control and comes onto the property and I'm not taking some proactive steps to try to safeguard the front. I designed something on Fiverr. There's a website where you get to have different professionals offer their services. And for less than $200, I was able to come up with a tremendous amount of renderings and dial in with unlimited revisions, something that I thought is going to look pretty cool. And we'll get into what it costs in the end. But here's the process of getting rid of these giant stumps and putting in a nice landscaping wall and ultimately some cool trees. So it begins. Stump removal first. That's why you dig the stumps out. It's quite large. Wait till you see this thing when it comes out. Here we are doing the prep work for the steps in the wall, and we're now going to be putting a row of trees here. Let me go on the other side of the dirt here to show you. We're going to trench across here to pour the wall before we do the stone face, so it's going to match the gates over there. Should look something like this when finished. We've filled in the holes where the stumps were. Now we're re-excavating, marking the grade levels so we can prep for the steps in the wall. That's going to look like this when we're done. But as you can see, we're going to make it so that when the gates are on their automatic openers and they're closed, people can walk around on the steps. The point of the gates are just to keep the cars out. The automation is not something that I'm going to have like a code lock for or anything like that. But here we're 20 feet 6 inches away from the right of way, and we'll get this all prepped up to then do the framing for the concrete pour, which is coming in 2 days. And once that's poured, now I'm glad, see if you see the stone there, we stoned that all the way below grade, so now if that ends up being exposed, we're in good shape because it's already got a stone face on it. That. So I realize we have to work everything off of the angle of the gates here because my property doesn't line up square to the road. So to make it look right, we're going off the angle of the gates, and we're going to frame all of this stuff out of plywood. Got simple rebar here. So we'll start taking form, and then tomorrow morning we have the concrete pour. I've got 9 cubic yards coming. I'm going to reevaluate that when we have this final height, because I ended up doing a lower height. So I did 36-inch pour versus 48-inch pour. So we'll see what that looks like when we're done. Because I can always, if the wall is too low, I can always build up. If I make the wall too high, it makes it more difficult. But I didn't like, when I was building it up 48 inches, I didn't like where it hit on this column. It was too high, and that didn't look right to me. So we chopped it down. You can see how this whole process goes now that everything is sort of laid out. You can see the different stages. You start with the string lines to make sure you get your height right and that you're on plane or on going the direction you want to. And this way you can tell those are level. You're always working off of those. Instead of using the forms, we're building them out of wood for this. And you can see how this ends up. You'll still see the string coming across there to make sure we're going where we want. And the concrete truck should be here in a few hours. They should be done with this probably in an hour and a half, and we'll be good to go. So we've got a 10-inch wide wall going in, and the results should be pretty good. All right, start finished product here. And we got the truck. I'm gonna start dumping them in. We're gonna start with this box here and work our way over. I estimated it's about 120 lineal feet. So we'll see how close I am. That puts us at like 11.3 yards. The truck is 11 yards. So here we go. Wait, back it up because we're blowing out the inside there. So we just have to reinforce that. All right, first truck of concrete's gone. Rebar guys came back to fix some of these. We're starting to blow out. And most of it's below grade, so it doesn't really matter if it's bowed out. With the plywood forms, we ended up filling it halfway to not stress it so much. So we made it to about there. Another, say 40 lineal feet of wall here. We're just smoothing this stuff out. It ended up being, I brought in 17 yards. I probably could have done with 15. But like this is when we just filled it up to the top and we smoothed it out. It looks something like that. Again, it doesn't really matter what it looks like when you smooth it out because we're gonna be putting mortar on top of it anyway to attach. We're building up to attach both concrete block there, but then on top of here, we're gonna have bluestone caps like up here on the pillar. So end of day one, I had them shovel the last couple of yards, probably 2 or 3 yards here, which is too much. But again, this is all gonna be below grade. This gives me a good foundation. The only concern I have tomorrow is that when we strip these forms, half of them are gonna be buried in concrete. So we're probably gonna have to chop them off or break them off somewhere. And again, most of that's not going to be visible, but still a little bit extra work. If I had to do this all over again, I would totally use like steel forms or aluminum forms, whatever they're made out of. This was the company. They said, we'll use plywood. And I was like, I don't really care. As long as you get it done, you guys do this for a living. But I would probably avoid plywood in the future just because we had to fix this side, blew out. So there was a bunch of stuff that went wrong. Again, I don't care if the bottom blows out of it, because if the bottom blows out of it, it's all below grade anyway. It's just going to be a wider base. You're just wasting concrete. And this is all going to be, again, below grade. So it just gives us a nice firm foundation to build up off of with the gravel. Everything else looking good. So Ferretti construction phase 1 complete. Tomorrow I've got the delivery, I've got the mountain frost coming in, and I've got the bluestone caps. I got everything coming in tomorrow, but I'm probably going to bring in 4 or 5 guys and see how quickly we could bang this out so it doesn't drag out forever. I have completed what I consider the ugliest concrete pour in the history of man. But this is why there's finishing work. It's funny, the molds are supposed to be 10 inches, which for context, this here, from here to here is 10 inches. So that's probably like 14 inches wide. And then you can see it bulges in and out as you go down. However, again, this is the base of everything. That's why I put the rebar there so we can build up. But this is why I will never use plywood forms again. This string line will give us the front face that we want. And honestly, if the forms blow out at the bottom there, it doesn't matter, or even the back doesn't matter because that's a retaining wall. But it's the front that is going to be the important part. And we're going down about 20 inches from this string line, so we'll build it off that. here we go. Day 4. Thank you. So we're going to come off the cement block on the top of the wall. Will give us our nice smooth edge that we're looking for and smooth finish. And anything that's got to be added in here will just be made up with mortar. This is how we square off the bulging forms. Nice. All right, we lost most of the day here squaring this off, but pretty sky up there. We're using the string lines. We ended up chiseling away all of this and then leveling it off, so we've got a good surface to work with. And it took a good amount of time, but at least it'll be right. Anything can be fixed, really, but the base, like you see where it bulged out, we had to chisel away, but that's all going to be below grade, so we just left it. Otherwise, we got nice even lines here. So till tomorrow, we'll get this sort of wrapped up. I was hoping to have this all done, this whole planter side done today. We're not there yet. The other thing is when we do the steps in here, I'm gonna have 2 or 3 steps. Since we dumped so much concrete in here, I'm just gonna have to drill some holes in it just so it doesn't pool up water, because this is gonna be like loose stone when you come. And it's not the fact that it's gonna have blue stone in the end. We need to get the water out so it doesn't act as a little collection bin or collection basin for water. So now we've got a space heater trying to keep things a little warmer. A touch of snow this morning, and we'll get this whole thing ideally finished up. This may push us back maybe a day, but we'll see what happens. Coming along, as long as everything gets corrected, which it looks like we have corrected everything for those walls, the extra day doesn't mean too much. But there's my little tent. Pitched it to start the morning. Starting to come along here. Got nice straight lines everywhere. This is 1 step away from being finished. This is just letting the whatever mortar thin set dry. 2 steps from being finished is when you glop the stuff on, and then you sort of trim it down and then you smooth it out. So that's where we're going now. If we go back in time a little bit, we're gonna go under my tent here, and here is where you start using these little chips and sticks or whatever you have to space it out. We're only going down 2 feet on the wall here because this is all going to be dirt, so there's no reason to put stone all the way down there. But you can see we're almost done going through here. And here you can see the thin set, and then the stone face gets attached to it. And here's, I want to say phase 1, which is the raw base wall underneath there. But if somebody hits this thing, they're gonna have a whole lot of hurt. So this is definitely gonna do the trick, but we're almost done going here. Tail out the end, put the bluestone cap on it, and this project will be complete. Then we just gotta put some trees in. All right, here we go. We got the bluestone being sized up for the top. We gotta cut the rebar off the top of the wall. Obviously, we've already done it in the middle there. It's going from that to this, and then obviously we'll smooth them out when we're done. But just about there. And this one I did as a straight cut here. Normally you'd 45 the connections like this, but because we're finishing the tile on both sides of this, because that may be exposed. I had to get a 14-inch wide versus these are 12-inch wide, which you'd never know by looking at it. But that was able to hide into that cut. All right, here we are. Final play here, other than the steps. Got our waterproofing done. So we did some waterproofing on the back of the wall, so we never have anything leak through, even 10 or 15 years from now. And now we do the backfill and grading. You can see they just have a couple little touch-ups down here. Where you don't see stone is where there'll be dirt, but you'll see the all the waterproofing in here just to keep the water from running through, if it does. I mean, you still have 12 inches of concrete down there, but water finds its way. And here we're making the grade on this side. I'm sort of in the way here, so let me get my arse out of here. And you'll see it's starting to take shape here. All right, we're getting real close here. We're just doing the steps now, and then we'll cap it with bluestone, fill it with rocks, throw some seed, and actually probably not even seed, I'll just throw some hay down here to control the dirt for the winter. It's unfortunate that I'm not able to grass or plant anything now. And I'll get the trees, potentially I'll put the trees in just to complete it for now, so I can get the trees going. You can plant the trees in the winter. Everything else, grass isn't gonna last, so I'll put the sod down come spring. But this is what a almost completed project looks like. I wanted 2 feet of exposure on the wall, so I left 26 inches. So when I put the sod up to it, it fills that in. And now we clean up. This is the pre-filled in holes. I got a little bit more hay to throw, but here's effectively here's the final phase of this project other than the plantings. I cut through the concrete. Now this was just like excess concrete that I dumped in here, and that acted as a footer for everything else. But then I'm like, you know what, I gotta put holes in this thing so this doesn't act as a swimming pool, right? Because this is gonna be effectively watertight. So I put a hole here, and a hole there, and that'll allow water to at least drain out. Maybe I'll put some loose stone or something down in there to fill it up, because I don't want to put my truckload of white marble chip. Ooh, that's nice. This is 1 yard of crushed stone. Now this I got from an organic recycling place. If you go to like Lowe's or something, this is probably $8 a bag. And that's a lot of bags right there. This would be probably $400 in bags. It was $130 for the loose pour. So we'll get this in here and we will walk you through the finished product. Thank you for keeping tabs on this one. Here is the project completed minus the landscaping and the trees. But I'll probably wait until spring just so that stuff's got a better chance of survival. The sod is no chance of living, but the rest of it, pretty good. So here's my gates and my wall, which I don't even want to add it up. I think it's probably about 50 grand for this. Now doing the math, you're going to see there was about 8 days of total labor time involved in doing this. The construction of this wall with the gravel, with everything, you're looking at about, and the dumpsters for removing the stumps, you're looking at about $26,000. So now you take the trees, well, that's not including removing the trees. So you're getting rid of the trees, putting the wall up, putting the gates, and not the automation on the gates yet, you're looking at about $55,000. Front yard's getting a little bit expensive because I still got to put new sod down, but there you go. If you're wondering what something like that costs, it was about, you could break down my previous cost estimates, but about $10,000 in labor, $12,000 in labor, and about $14,000 in material. Thanks for watching. Rob Ferretti. Stay tuned. It's going to look a little bit different in the spring, and I'm excited to put some trees up and get this thing wrapped up.